Welcome to the Commerce Tomorrow podcast, your one stop to learn about the technology that's powering the future of commerce. Here are your hosts, Dirk and Kelly.
Welcome to another episode of the Commerce Tomorrow podcast. I'm joined here with my co-host, Dirk Horig.
Hi, everybody.
And today we're interviewing the CEO of Instart, Sumit Dhawan.
Hello, all.
So I heard about what Sumit and Instart are doing, and I thought we just have to book him as a guest because it's so related to commerce. And I consider myself pretty tuned in, but I'd never really heard what these guys are doing. And they've got a bunch of backing, and they're based in the heart of Silicon Valley. And I think they've got a pretty interesting story. So Sumit, maybe you can start and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to Instart. And then a quick follow-up is, what do you guys do?
Great. Well, my name is Sumit Dhawan. I'm the CEO at Instart. I've been with Instart about 9 months. Prior to Instart, I spent nearly 16 years of my life at a company called Citrix, which delivers infrastructure software for delivering applications for workforce as well as to consumers using both hardware and software solutions for enterprises. And I joined Citrix when Citrix was a startup and, saw the company grow and, contributed in multiple different roles as well as businesses. And after that, I spent 5 years at VMware and I built out their business for software for mobility and end user computing, delivering a great experience and security for workforce that's coming in and being mobile and accessing enterprise applications. That's as good of an experience and security as possible. About a year or so ago, I sort of was contacted about this role at Instart, and the more I looked at it, the more I feel there is some amazing technology assets at this company. There are some macro trends about, digital commerce and digital sort of information, which is only going to grow. I look at just the growth rate of how everyone's going to consume information and products digitally. And I see the trends in applications. And I saw Instart with some amazing technology that I'm going to talk a bit about, where it is truly able to, automate the digital experience in a unique way that no one else can. And I saw, this is pretty amazing potential. It's somewhat similar to what I have experienced as growth in building businesses in my prior life. And I took the challenge and joined Instart as the CEO. And that was 9 months ago. At that point of time, the company needed to focus. So we have since then focused the company on the core sort of strengths that the company has. We brought in an amazing leadership team, and we are now executing on a mission that we call digital experience automation. Okay. And if you like, I can talk a little bit about what that means and what we do, unless you have any follow-up questions about me.
No, please go ahead. I think this is pretty exciting. And I also dived into your product offering and I heard a lot about Instart. But when you're not deep coming from an industry background here, it's sometimes hard to understand the full offering. So please explain a little bit more. And also I would like to dive technically into that on a few foundational things. And maybe you can explain that in that context also to the audience. So for example, what does exactly delivery infrastructure mean? What is this whole space about? I know that you are pretty active, at least on a foundational level on that. And what's the CDN in there? So I think we probably all know that and have a common understanding, but I'm not sure if everybody else has the same understanding what it is and what you needed. What's an ADC? What's probably the difference? So CDN versus ADC. So probably we could already dive deep into that when you talk a little bit more about what Instart is all doing.
Absolutely. So, if you think about the applications, today's applications, they are being, and when I say applications, I mean websites or even mobile applications, but website even more so. there are multiple stakeholders in any business that are changing the application. Now, you may say that's not possible. Only developers are changing the application, and they are built on platforms that are commerce servers or public cloud servers. So how can multiple stakeholders be changing the application? The reason is because today, if you think about business teams, they have interest in having rich content, personalization, adding capabilities that are rich to support customers through click to chat, etc., etc. And there are tag management systems that enable business teams to add those capabilities by themselves without relying on in-house software developers or any kind of consultants. Then marketers are adding programs for for customer acquisition, retargeting, again done through tags, all added into the application without real knowledge of the technology teams who are ending up building the application. So the application is getting changed from multiple stakeholders. And if you have someone who's also relying on revenue outside of commerce, such as ads, then there is an ad ops team that's also adding technology into the application that's continuously changing and all of this is impacting the experience of the consumers. And as Google and many of the industry experts have said, that experience drives profitability. There is a concept of a performance budget. Then if you go beyond that performance budget, it drives drop in revenue for the entire company. And at this point in time, with the rate of change that's happening into the application, all of that is happening in the browser, real time, with no particular control over it. Okay. And now comes, if you think about infrastructure like CDN or ADCs or load balancing technologies that exist in front of your applications itself. Load balancing was added for reliability and then expanded to security capabilities for the application. Then CDNs were added to save the information as close as possible, cache the information as close as possible to the consumers, to be able to make sure that consumers can access the website from any location and get a great performance experience. Those were great when website was all programmed by the developers and was centrally running in one single data center or cloud or single platform. With the advent of tags, ads, and the advent of multiple stakeholders always changing the application, and you combine that with mobile devices, mobile networks, and accessibility options that have greatly enhanced, you really need to complement all of that technology with something that is completely browser-centric, because browser is where the application is coming together. That's continually assessing what the end user experience is, giving that visibility to the teams that are responsible for the performance, and then using that loop back into the infrastructure, whether it's your delivery infrastructure such as CDN or ADC, and continually optimizing it and automating it so that the experience of the consumers is fully optimized while all of these changes that are taking real time. And that's what Instart focuses on. Our unique IP is where we have something that gets seamlessly embedded into your application and is able to do rich analytics of real-time consumer experience of every user that connects to the website, not just of your first-party website, but second and third-party tags, fourth and fifth-party ads. All of that is real-time assessed. Based on that analytics, our customers get opportunity to do continuous automation with policies and controls that they can put in place for performance and security. And we have AI-based technology in our infrastructure that does optimization. And customers have an option to use our technology with the infrastructure like ADC and CDN that they may have already put in place, or replace their CDN with one that we provide built in as part of our Instart solution. And we call that solution and offering Instart DX, like Digital Experience Cloud.
That's actually a lot. I'm currently just making my head all around that. But I have one immediate question that came to my mind. So with all the improvements on performance, security, scalability, and personalization, I would imagine that it would require a lot of customization on the code of each of the layers and levels of the application that your clients have. I assume that with Instart, that's not the case, right? So you
not at all.
Found a different way to that, right?
Not at all, Dirk. So I think our entire application is continually sensing the changes in the application. And because we have all of that sensing technology, both in the cloud as well as on the consumer's devices, we see and sense any changes into the application made by first or third parties at any given point. Based on those changes, we are continuously learning, and then feeding that to do optimization for the next consumer that comes in. Okay. So as a result, when, what we don't want to do is have customers manage one more thing when they have to manage already a host of things to handle all the changes. They're just free to make the changes that are suitable across, to serve their business needs. The business teams and marketing teams can make changes to the application using tag management system. Developers can make changes to their component of their application. And then through our system, we can detect anomalies and issues and either put circuit breakers through our controls that, for performance in case some errors were made in configuration or programming, or we can start optimizing the performance of consumers based on selectively loading the application for the next consumer that comes in, knowing how the pattern of application load has been in the past.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So a follow-up question for you is how many tags are we looking at today with a modern e-commerce website? So
yeah, but great question. At this point in time, first of all, I want to say tags are here to stay. Tags are the ones that give businesses ability to go agile and compete with the likes of Amazon or Facebook, depending on which industry you're in, because no one can hire army of engineers that these bigger players can, and tags neutralize the advantage of these bigger players, giving business teams agility to add capabilities and analytics into the website and revenue generating things into the website much faster. Okay. Now, at this point in time, if you assess typical e-commerce site, I'm not going to name names, but you can pretty much go to any site. We typically find that most websites on most of their pages have anywhere between 20 to up to 70 to 80 tags. Okay, 20 would be low end. And I'm not even referring to just e-commerce sites that are selling products, but even the ones that are selling services, consumer services as well, including even financial products.
That's amazing. So how has the CDN and ADC market changed over time? So if we take a look at like Akamai, for example, you look at the cloud vendors, whether it's AWS or GCP or Azure, all of them have CDNs and some of them encroach into the space. So given the clear need here, how are folks adapting to all of these changes?
Yeah, I think if you think about ADC and CDN markets, by definition, they're designed to go optimize the content that is flowing through them, right? ADCs provide load balancing and security capabilities. CDN provide caching capabilities, but they're designed to go where the applications are. And as applications go to public cloud, then ADC providers and CDN providers are now taking their capabilities to public cloud with offering some kind of hybrid control planes on top of, applications for the enterprise who will run their applications in hybrid cloud environment. And that is a trend that is happening where the bigger ADC and CDN sort of players are focused on making sure that their technologies go with the application or the content as they move from on-premise to public cloud. What ADCs and CDNs just are not focused on or cannot do is when the application, from a consumer perspective, from a user perspective, the experience that comes together with more than just the first-party content. They're fundamentally focused on the first-party content moving from data center to public cloud. But third and fourth-party content already comes from public cloud. And that's where the controls over the experience and security need to be in the browser. And that's where Instart sort of focuses on, and customers say how we complement or add value above and beyond what ADCs and CDNs do.
Yeah, we see a similar development in the whole commerce space. Beside the whole shift from on-premise to public cloud, we see more and more, especially of the leading online retailers and brands, shifting from big monolithic applications that they deployed and ran over the last 10, 15, 20 years, now to small, modern microservices-based architectures where the front end is powered by APIs, so it's getting more fragmented. So they have more flexibility, but they also have more to manage. What are the implications and problems that you see when it comes to the delivery infrastructure for this more modern kind of approach?
Yes, I think that's a very good point. I believe that's the future. Microservices with a rich set of API tools. And that's how more and more applications will be constructed with the bigger the enterprise, the more expertise they would have in doing so. It just makes more sense. The traditional waterfall models of building with a monolithic application are just not sustainable again to compete with the pace and at which and the likes of Amazon are moving. And at this point of time, combination of public clouds as well as the commerce platforms and API platforms and the new dev tools make running that kind of a model extremely feasible, practical, and more profitable, right? But going with that model creates new challenges because the infrastructure was always designed for one place where the app is, one stream of sort of line of sight for the entire application. And browser was always thought of as a dumb sort of client, right, which was not doing anything. But as you go towards this microservices model, the rate of change goes up. In fact, that's the reason to go to microservices model, to create the rate of change in an independent fashion, not still live with a waterfall model of doing performance assessment as a post facto and dependent on the releases. You just can't do that in that kind of a model. So with our technology, what we see is we're an enabler of that kind of a model, because you can go to that model and you don't have to worry about waterfall, because our technology provides real-time analytics built into our infrastructure. It's not an add-on or a forced add-on as seen by consumers, in the browser. In addition, our technology provides you to have circuit breakers. Mistakes happen in this DevOps kind of a world where there is agile development practices or dependence on tags and third-party services. It's not by intent, but rather than shying away from the model because of fear of mistakes, you design circuit breakers so that in case mistakes happen, you revert back the changes quickly, you take performance sort of control actions, you protect some kind of security leak to happen just because of an accidental mistake from someone who programmed their client-side scripting incorrectly and is now accessing sensitive consumer fields or cookies that they shouldn't be accessing. And then we have AI-based optimizations that ensure that we learn the changes quickly, learn how application is getting loaded. And because of this DevOps model, all pages now are becoming dynamic, personalized pages. And in that world, where caching is not going to solve the problem. Instead, it's dynamic loading based on patterns that we have seen in the past that's truly going to deliver performance. And that's what Instart does. Okay. So I'm a firm believer of that model. All of, practices are definitely going to move to it. We already see tons of momentum, and we at Instart are enablers of it in the infrastructure.
Very interesting. So, given that you're in the middle between the clients and the back end, it puts you in a pretty powerful position. So what are some cool tricks you can do? For example, I saw you can do JavaScript streaming. What is that?
Yeah.
And are there any other magic tricks you can perform being in that middle layer?
I mean, what we do is, first, broadly speaking, we see the application split on, the website, which is the first party, tags, ads. And we do magic, as you call it, or tricks to all three of them. Okay. But let me explain something for tags or JavaScript sort of thing. And that's what you asked, JavaScript streaming. What we do with JavaScript streaming is that we are able to assess, we learn through our technology that what part of what JavaScripts or what tags in what scenarios are used most, or when are they consumed. And then rather than waiting for the entire page to load and all the JavaScript and tags to load and then start executing them, we are able to intelligently optimize that by only loading the selective ones before the rendering starts of the page, as a result, speeding up the performance. Okay, so that's we call that as sort of this streaming the JavaScript, where in the background we are waiting and downloading others, and we can start the experience and interactivity of the website as soon as practically possible and feasible, and making the experience of the consumers much better. Also, as part of that, we can put circuit breakers. If we're starting to see, hey, certain JavaScript code should only take, usually ends up taking about, 40 milliseconds. But now on this new version of iOS that just shipped, this is taking 200 milliseconds. I'm going to alert. Okay. And then if there are automated rules set up, I'm going to just put a circuit breaker to say, this is not a critical tag. Just delay loading that or cancel loading it until for the next 24 hours, because I've already alerted, then hopefully this issue gets resolved in the next 24 hours. So it's not a post facto analytics and now you're waiting for what the issue is. You've essentially deferred this problem and loading of this sort of tag for later on. So that's how we end up tackling the streaming capabilities of JavaScript. And we have similar tricks for HTML. We have similar tricks for images. We have similar trick for ad technology. Again, because of our continuous learning and rich sort of control for ability to transform the application real time based on our intelligence that we are collecting, we're able to apply these tricks to different parts of the application, always ensuring best possible experience and protection of consumer information that gets leaked either in the cloud or on the device.
Yeah, as a microservices guy, I love your use of circuit breakers, because circuit breakers were really one of the major underpinnings of microservices architecture. Without circuit breakers, you don't really have microservices. And once folks started adding those, the reliability of these big distributed systems really improved. And it's good to see that applied in a different context as well. So that's good. So I have a question for you just about disintermediation. The general trend has been that there are a lot of hops now between the back end and the clients, whether those hops are load balancers of various sorts, WAFs, security gateways, content delivery networks. I mean, take your pick, right? The number of hops from a customer to from a customer's device to the back end to the origin is increasing. At what point do you have too many hops? right? Because this is yet another layer. So how many of the layers do you collapse? Do you need a traditional CDN? And is that a problem that you as a vendor are asking your customers to add yet another hop in their pathway?
It's a great question. First of all, there are two ways to look at this sort of problem of hops. One is sort of a network sort of view into it, which is for each hop you could potentially introduce latency, right, and can have an impact on the experience. And the second is around manageability and security, because now you've got another thing that can be compromised or you have to quote unquote manage. Okay, so for that, both of them are real, you would call questions that we get. We don't. I personally think that anytime we do the analysis, the first one is not quite a concern. Okay, we have proven that these point of time, just the way the networks and some of these delivery networks, including ours, is set up, the hops don't particularly add to the experience latency in any ways. It's more on how do you make sure that if you're adding a technology like ours, it doesn't add up compromising your management and security per se. So for that, we are now starting to actively integrate. You're going to see us do full integration with public cloud as well as with ADCs very, very shortly, where you use Instart technology. That the management of the technology and the control of the technology is integrated into the infrastructure that you already own. So that this is not a separate management framework and not a separate sort of control framework. It's built into your infrastructure. And secondly, it does lead to many customers asking us in adopting our technology in two phases. They say, great, I'm going to add it on. But then if your technology really, really, really does what you say it does, and we get a chance to prove it out, then customers say, I'm going to just sort of eliminate my other infrastructure and embrace what you offer as a part of the platform. And it works for them, not just sort of economically, but also from a better model for management and security. So to answer your question, I do think that adding hops as a long-term strategy is not a great one. But at the same time, the issue is not so much on network latency or performance. It will be more because of management and security. And we always recommend to customers, it's the reason why we offer a solution that fits into your infrastructure as another hop is not necessarily one that you would embrace forever. But it's a great way for you to start getting comfortable with it, start getting the value of our technology until you're ready to consolidate the infrastructure into a platform that we provide.
Yeah, sounds logical. Sumit, you already mentioned earlier in this podcast that on the websites, especially also those that are commerce related, but as well as the ones that are content related, you see more than 60 tags that are integrated that come from second, third, or even fourth party vendors out there. Now with the I would say changes that are happening related, for example, through GDPR. There's the new Californian data protection, I think CCPA law coming out later this year. Do you think that there might be a new wave of micropayment based content consumption? So for the last 30 years, the internet was free for everybody, and almost every content provider that started to have a payment model there that failed. Now we already have to implement consent management and these kind of things to manage all the cookies and the ad integrations and where's the data going. So now do you think that there potentially might be a change that customers are willing to pay something like 1 cent to view a web page and then they have no ads, no cookies, no nothing? On the performance side, that would make it probably way easier, right? But yeah, do you think that this is something that is going to happen, or will everything stay as is?
Well, I wouldn't say that everything would stay as is. I have my personal doubts on sort of micropayment based consumption model, because I've seen unless economics were a barrier, that model usually is not preferred by us as consumers. I mean, if you look at our, cell phone plans, used to be where we would have that micro consumption or micropayment based consumption model. But it was economic driven, not based on consumer interest driven. And that fundamentally shifted to where you sort of subscribe to, where you have subscription. I do believe we are going to go more towards subscription services, which will have either ad less or ad light experiences. And the whole industry in that sort of media world is shifting towards it, but it will take time. Even when we go to services, it's not. I think subscription services. I'm not sure the revenue model will fundamentally shift to completely ad less. Maybe ad light kind of an experience for many. All of those will have impact on performance. 100% agreed. Now, remember, the issue at this point of time with ad tech is as follows. Okay, the issue is that ad tech is performing a lot of technology that is fighting for resources and is the websites and the analytics technologies and all the sort of ad tech stack is sort of continuously experimenting on what will give the best yield to the publishers. Okay, that's what's happening. Where is that happening? That's not happening in your CDN or ADC. It's not even happening in your ad tech. It's happening real time for when consumers are accessing the websites in their browsers. Okay, and that's what our ads technology does. What our ads technology does is essentially it gives rich analytics of what is it that, again, not analytics from ad performance, like ad revenue perspective, but it gives because there's many technologies that do that. We do analytics on how ad tech versus the rest of the application is causing the experience to get impacted. What would the right order of execution of that stack be on the browser that delivers the best possible experience? And how is that related to the yield of the ad? Because what we have seen is we can boost the experience and the speed of ad delivery as well as the web delivery. And together that leads to the best yield. Okay, so that's sort of how I would answer the question on ads. In other words, we don't have to think that the performance and the ads have to be two either or. You can, even with the current technology stack, optimize the speed, but you need some platform that is continually assessing what's happening in the browser and feeding that intelligence back into the infrastructure to optimize the delivery of first-party content, third-party content, and ad content, or else it won't work. Okay, the static post-facto analysis and brute force ways of doing optimizations are just not scalable because it always sub-optimizes some user groups. Okay, so that's about ads. On the GDPR and the California law that you mentioned, here is the issue. Okay, when you have third-party services added to your websites with tags and ads, when they come into your web application, okay, especially tags, ads may not be because they're in separate frames and whatnot. But when they come into your application, each of these tags and JavaScript technology is nothing but an extension of your app. What does that mean? That means all the cookies, all the forms where you're collecting consumer information or storing them on the device because you have to, since that's what determines not just the ads that the consumers get served, but that's how you follow the consumers to give them best possible experience. All those are accessible by any of these third-party services. So you can keep securing your application all you want, but if I'm a hacker, I don't have to attack the strongest part of your application, which may be on your own sort of, domain and your own control. I just have to attack the weakest part, which could be some kind of a minor analytics technology that you've added, or some marketer has added for some kind of a daily promotion that they may be running. And from that, I have access to all of your consumer information. Sure, you can have a legal agreement with that small third-party service that protects you legally, but will it truly protect you financially? I don't think it would. Yeah, and that's where Instart can help.
Yeah, I get that. I wish things weren't the way they were. I would love to essentially pay for like a phone card, those old school phone cards where you'd pay $10 or something.
I think there are going to be consumers like yourselves, and then there'll be consumers who say, I just want to pay, I don't know, $5 a month, kind of like music, right? It shifted like Apple Music. I just want to pay $10 and consume any music I like. So I think there's going to be both models.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with that is it's basically, we got rid of our cable last year. And we thought, oh, great, let's get rid of this horrible cable package that nobody ever watches. And now we have Hulu, and we have like 4 add-ons to Hulu, and then we have Netflix, and now Disney's coming up, and like, this whole model of having a subscription, these all past subscriptions, inevitably means you fragment your down to the publisher.
I think you're going to be aggregators.
Like, I don't want to pay like $10 a month for Business Insider when I read 2 articles a month, So it'd be cool to come up with some universal, you just pay a penny per page view or something. Because I would love to support these guys, but it's incredibly slow to even browse the internet. It's breaking things, it seems like, almost, just with how many ads there are and how polluted these pages are. It's crazy. Anyway, that's just a personal rant of mine. So I've one more question. Dirk has one follow-up, and then I think we'll wrap. But we're seeing a pretty large shift from server side to edge side. And in every decade or two, the pendulum shifts. And we now see a lot of workloads being executed directly at the edge. So we see Lambda at edge from AWS. We now have 5G towers. And I mean real 5G, not the fake 5G, but real 5G capable of actually caching content out at the edge. Do you see this as a shift that's going to continue? And what are the implications for your industry? Because I could see you executing a lot of that logic that you would otherwise perform in a centralized location. If you could even push that down to a 5G tower, I think that would be pretty interesting. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. With 5G, we will see advent of some amazing, applications. This multi-edge applications that come in where you have the ability to run, all kinds of compute capabilities, which are lightweight and but yet provide a significant boost in performance. So we're very excited about it. In fact, in our labs, we are assessing both partnerships and product innovations that are targeted for this world. It'll become, we think, in the next sort of 18 months or so, we're going to see a build out on this infrastructure from multiple players. Some have already made their intent clear. Others are in the process of making their intent clear. So we do see the trend towards it, and simply because at this point in time, the rich sort of analytics-driven applications that are getting written, the amount of data that needs to be collected, processed, needs to be closer to where the data is getting collected from, which is the true endpoint or the edge. So completely agree. We definitely see the pattern there. We believe so what we have done at Instart is we have built our software in a way where all of our optimizations are compute driven. They're not network driven, right? Everything I described, which is collecting the information, rich information from the consumer's device, analyzing it, doing AI-based optimization. This is compute-based optimizations. They're not network-based optimizations. And we have built them in a way so that this compute technology is running on our cloud infrastructure, which is a combination of our own, our own infrastructure, as well as public cloud infrastructure, which gives us the ability to extend it to any edge infrastructure that we want. It's designed in that way. It's designed to be multi-tier. It's designed to be going to the edge. So we're really excited about it. We're looking forward to more and more of these edge infrastructure technologies, infrastructure itself to become available. So we can bring our service to these infrastructure as it becomes available and becomes useful for next generation applications, which are not just website and web applications, but more IoT based, heavily data centric applications where compute centric optimizations will be needed, not just network centric optimizations. So we're excited about it. And I think we are at this point in time building some amazing innovations, all built on top of our same platform, and looking for, announcing some partnerships in the near future.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. I think we could continue that for an hour or two, even more. But I have one last business-related question to you, Sumit. And so according to Crunchbase and what we spoke in advance about is, so you raised an impressively amount of 140 million so far on venture capital from 12 investors covering the who's who of Silicon Valley, like companies like Kleiner Perkins or Andreessen Horowitz, who are sitting on your board. So beside that great amount of money that helps you to grow your business, what else are they giving you to help you being successful? So what kind of resources can your investors provide you to get the business forward where it needs to be?
Yeah, I think first of all, kudos to the founding team for bringing in these investors to Instart. When I joined, I was sort of a bit sort of concerned as to how, when you have so many investors that are in the company, how would that work? But they have been nothing but supportive, and I've seen the power of someone like Andreessen Horowitz and what they bring into the company. They're able to bring us. We are able to meet hundreds of customers through Andreessen, briefing center and events that they enable for us. That is a big source of awareness, pipeline, credibility that we bring into the customers. Secondly, when we have to engage with larger partners, because what we are trying to do is not just something that we can influence the industry by ourselves, but we're sometimes playing among the giants in the landscape, the likes of Azure and AWS and Google. With these investors, we are able to very quickly work with some of these larger players, because of just the help that we get from our board and the investors. So I feel we're very lucky in that respect. And the capital we have raised gives us two things. One, it has helped us build out our infrastructure and core technology and get some of the largest of the customers to be on Instart. We're no longer concerned about our global reach to serve the customers and consumers regardless of where they are and whatever part of the world they are in. We've already sort of established that. We have capacity to be able to bring new customers on without having to worry about the capital that's required to build out the infrastructure. So that's been that's sort of the reason why we raised the capital to build out the technology and spread and build out our infrastructure for global reach. So both from capital perspective and the help that we get from customers and our ecosystem perspective, investors have been great for the company.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for all the insights. Unfortunately, we are getting to the end of the episode as we are running out of time. I hope for everybody that was listening, it was as exciting as it was for Kelly and me to speak to Sumit. Sumit, thank you so much for taking the time and answering all our questions. We wish you all the continued success that you had also for 2019. You had an impressive growth so far, and it's an impressive story. So hope everything continues as you and the team have planned. And thanks for being on our podcast.
Highly appreciated, and thank you, both of you, for the time, and look forward to, staying in touch with the community.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.